Welcome to Bubbles and Breakdowns, a space designed for you to show up as your beautifully imperfect self, where we dive into the good, the bad, and the so bubbly. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Katrina. Hello, everyone. Thank you for prioritizing time with us today. We know it's a choice and you have so many places to choose to spend your time, so thanks for choosing us. Today, we are going to talk about the beauty of being vulnerable. How sexy, how gorgeous, how vulnerable.
Let's get deep.
I love it. But honestly, guys, we live in a world, I think all of us can relate, that sometimes rewards us for our strength, our toughness, or the masks that we might put on. And sometimes being vulnerable could be mistaken for a weakness. We know that's not true. What if the greatest measure of our strength is when we're actually willing to be fully seen? And no, not just like taking your clothes off, but your emotional exposure.
That's next week's episode.
But really, this episode, we really hope to explore some of the power of healthy vulnerability and how we can make some conscious choices to show up imperfectly. Again, you're with Bubbles and Breakdowns. None of this is perfect.
Nope.
But also show up honestly and without your armor. We want to discuss why vulnerability is critical to moving past surface level interactions and building rooted, genuine relationships built on a strong foundation of trust. So come with us. We want to lean into how this is emotional exposure can enhance our lives and maybe, I don't know, bring you more authentic connection. So welcome.
Buckle up,
and let's get vulnerable. But
Let's do it.
before we get vulnerable, I think it's important we talk about the difference between vulnerability and oversharing.
Right. And I think it was so nice to hear in that opening too, like, why is this important? I think sometimes, like you said, people might wear it as this mask of, no, I don't want to be seen as weak, right? Or talk about my feelings in a way that maybe isn't the right audience, right? But there are some differences to oversharing, which I think we've all met an oversharer, and just being your authentic self and opening up a bit. And it can feel really rewarding.
I agree. I think there's definitely moments in my life where I've overshared. Like, I think I've had some off-color jokes in a room that maybe wasn't ready for it. And I'm like,
That's just your humor. No.
And it's like one of those moments where you're like, oh, the toothpaste is out of the tube. I can't put the toothpaste in the back of the tube.
Back.
But then there's moments of like authentic vulnerability where it's like this emotional vulnerability. And maybe, we overlook it sometimes, but if you think about your relationships, right, Ashley, and I think you and I maybe are a testament to this, is like our connection and speediness upon forming this friendship has been built on us both being very vulnerable.
Exactly.
Maybe also we now overshare.
I mean, 100%. I'm sure we do. But let's talk about what vulnerability is then. So it's really a choice to share an emotion or a need with this intention, but with boundaries. I think boundaries is a very important word here. It is about owning your experience by saying, I feel overwhelmed by this or something to that effect. And it is measured, reciprocal, and builds trust.
Yeah. And when we think about this boundary, we're not wanting to get into this level of oversharing or maybe like toxic transparency. We want to make sure that we're keeping it at a level that is more about just being honest and not being explicit, if you will. So it's like, I don't want to just walk up to you and just unload all of my mental and emotional garbage on you. But what I want to do is pull down that facade of how I'm really feeling. Like you said, I'm overwhelmed, or this morning was an absolute shit show. Instead of when someone asks you, hey, Ashley, how was your morning? And you go, good.
But I see you have a venti there.
Yeah, you're like, tell me more. You're not being honest, right? And I think the biggest thing is that you are getting into a good space with someone when they will also reciprocate, to the point of the reciprocity of like, okay, I feel that way too. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you said that. I hate this. I hate doing this. Oh my gosh, like if I have to go to another play date at someone's house that I don't know and they never have snacks, I'm going to lose my mind. You know what I mean? Like that's being authentic.
Yes.
And that's being vulnerable.
And I think it bonds you closer with that individual, right? And just gives you a sense of, okay, I'm not alone in this, right?
Yes.
Which I think is really rewarding. So
and permission, right?
Yes.
Like permission to then be honest and permission to be like, oh, not everything is sunshine and rainbows and not everything is as easy as it may appear. And I feel like when we're having to be around people who we feel like we have to put those masks on for, it's like we need less of that because at the end of the day, you know, it wears you out.
Right. And I think too, knowing who we are at this point, I think vulnerability is almost like a superpower.
Right.
You know, I think once you become confident in the person you are and also kind of not caring what others perceive a little bit more, not like I will ever stop doing that. Like I feel like I always will, but I think it gives you this strength to say, I'm being real.
Yeah.
You know, and again, you don't have to overshare. And I think the main purpose of this episode today too is saying there's beauty in that.
Yeah.
There's a difference, right? We're going to talk about like these differences of oversharing, being vulnerable.
Yeah.
What it provides you. And just like, if you want to enhance relationships or you want to go to a different level, this is kind of a way how to do that too.
Yeah. But there's also like, as you were speaking, there's this boundary of not just oversharing, but there's this boundary of, I want to be vulnerable in my authentic self, but not at the exchange of making anyone feel bad.
Totally.
Like, I'm not going to go around and be like an emotional dumpster fire person where I'm just like unloading all of my emotions on people and becoming like the person no one wants to be around.
You know what? I would almost argue there's some health in that too. Like I've got
with the right people.
Totally. I've got my people where I'm just like, I literally will vent for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know you have to get on a call. I didn't ask one thing about you. And they're like, that's okay. Have a good day. I'm glad you vented to me. I'll call you back.
Yeah.
And you're just like,
and you need those people.
You do.
But that's the thing is that you just nailed it, Ashley. Those people that are listening to you who love you and are happy to stay on the line for that 5 minutes while you are unloading, they are not hurt by what you're doing. They're not feeling bad by what you're doing because they love you and they hold that sacred space. And part of the boundary is knowing who, knowing when, and knowing when not to.
Yes.
And if you're lucky enough to have those people who are like, they take you at every shape and form, like pants on backwards, socks inside out, like spinach in your teeth, they're going to tell you, like those people, then that is awesome. And you can overshare.
Totally. And like, I think this brings us to our next point is some things that are needed to be vulnerable is this sense of psychological safety. So if, I'm just thinking of we all kind of know as we go through life, people you work with, people you meet, everyone kind of gives you a vibe.
Totally.
Right? So you're like, do I feel safe divulging this type of information to this person? Or could it be used later against me in a negative way?
Or in the moment of just like feeling judged or frowned upon or like just not validated, you know, just even in mom groups, as I've like sat around, I'm like, oh, like you'll kind of like scratch at it when you become a little bit of like I'm going to call it a vulnerability litmus test person. Like, you know, hey, is this person open or not? And I'll be like, oh my gosh, this is the worst, right? And then I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, okay, bye. Like, no, I'm not going to dive in any deeper because like they have shown you like they're not interested in going to that level or they don't agree with you. But then it's like, yeah, I don't feel psychologically safe with that person. And we all know this when we are at social gatherings, new social gatherings with new people. For some reason, we just tend to like flock to the people who we feel the most like simpatico. For example, you know, at a birthday party, it was a little bit of a crazy birthday party, very unique. And I caught eyes with this other mom that I also had seen at the center a number of times. And we both kind of just bulged our eyes out. And we were like, yeah, this is crazy, right? And like in that moment, I was like, oh, okay, it's not just me, right? So I already had known in myself, like I am establishing this psychological safety with this person. They're giving me a cue that I see you. It's okay. I'm with you. But not everybody's going to be with you.
No.
So,
But
and
that's okay too.
It's just human beings. It's just not everybody is going to be shocked by certain things, and not everybody is going to experience life the same. But I do think that that's critical, is like, how can we do better at giving people safe places? And I think that becomes a big skill as we get older, Ashley. Like because our frame of reference is deeper, and maybe like our span of differences is more variable, of like how other people have gone through things, and maybe they had the picture perfect upbringing and I didn't, but we're aware of it. And so we can kind of hold space for people and their uniquenesses that allows us maybe to cultivate psychological safety a little bit better.
And I love that you brought up that example, because I think you can also bond. I feel like you bond with people that are similar to you, right?
That's natural.
But there's so much to be said for bonding with people who've had differences.
Exactly.
And different upbringings. Because as you were speaking and said that, I love when people can hold court for you and keep open, have you listen, and maybe they listen to you, but then you listen to them, and maybe what they're, let's say, venting about or being vulnerable about kind of underpins how you experienced it, but like you get their point.
Right.
I think when that happens between friends or acquaintances or whoever you're having conversations with, it's kind of a beautiful magic where it's like you can be vulnerable with someone about this. They're not judging you, even though you might think like, oh, like for example, if I'm talking about something that happened when I grew up, about a parent, and maybe that person doesn't have that parent here anymore.
Yeah.
Or like, an example of just like trying to concrete my point. That person's not judging you for venting about that or opening up. And I keep saying venting, but it's more about sharing, right? And when that happens, I think there's that psychological safety is paramount.
And what you just described is a level of empathy and understanding and appreciating people for all their baggage or all their experience, even if you don't have the same, like being able to emotionally resonate with people who are unlike you is such a beautiful place to arrive as we mature. And I love that when I'm telling people difficult things that maybe they haven't gone through it, that I don't feel like they're looking at me like, who is this weirdo? Or like, gosh, what a train wreck of a life this woman's had. Because frankly, I've probably already thought it, but like, yeah, I think there's a real big beauty there. So let's talk about when we cultivate this space, Ashley, and we know that we have a foundation that we can build on. What are some of the benefits of true vulnerability?
Well, and I really think, when we talk about vulnerability, it's really the foundation of that authentic connection.
Yeah.
Like, we mentioned a lot of these conversations, and I think part of that is building trust in each other, where it's, it's not like you don't have to preface a conversation of don't tell this to anybody. Right. Like I feel like going back in my, 20s or 30s. I am not in my 30s anymore, but like going back to think I would be almost not ashamed. And maybe that made me evaluate who I was having these conversations with looking back, right? Like I was vulnerable with them, but I questioned it by saying, don't tell this to anybody, right? Because you almost have that. And it's not bad, right? Or whatever, but
it's like you're trying to feel safe, but you don't yet.
Yes. And I think there's no shame in trying to open up, but like you were saying to read the room. How does that conversation make you feel? But building this trust, and you're inviting someone else into your personal space. And if it's reciprocal too, and you click that, it is so genuine that I think it just gives you guys a better level of understanding in your relationships.
Yeah. Yeah.
Friends or peers, and it really makes you trust each other more.
I agree. And it's so interesting to see the difference maybe with our partners, Ashley, of like what it takes for them to get to a point of vulnerability. And I don't know about you, we have very different husbands, but like with Matt, I've always said like I'm a very open book and I maybe am an oversharer sometimes and like whatever, foot and mouth, but I also tend to be quicker to be vulnerable. I just tend to say, hey, we're all humans. We all poop sitting down, and we all have really bad days, and we all cry and, go through everything that a human goes through. And so I root myself in knowing that every person I'm talking to is a human being, and that really desensitizes me. And so I'm a very low self-monitor. And what I mean by that is that I don't tend to think too much about what I'm going to say before I say it. I'm not a heavily curated person at my default. I do put masks on and do that for certain parts of my life that I'm trying to unmask myself from. But then I think about my husband, and he is what I would call a very high self-monitor, who it takes a lot longer for him to establish trust and psychological safety. And he holds certain things to himself much closer to the chest than I ever would. And I'm like, oh, just tell them, like, everybody, that's happened to everybody, but it's this level of like comfort, and it's so personal. And I think some of it's built on personality, but I do think that when he has gotten to those spaces with people, I have seen him be very pleasantly surprised with just how reciprocal it is. And then I have seen his relationships blossom and grow and hit a next level. Now, did it take him maybe 3 years versus me with maybe 3 months? But like, he also, he's just so respectful. So I don't know. There's just a difference with our personalities and maybe how quick we might be to open up, which is okay too.
Totally.
And you all have a different kind of ticket to entry of what it's going to take for you to feel safe, right? And I think that's another thing for us who may be on the oversharer, maybe on the higher like open bookness, is to understand that not everybody is going to feel comfortable.
Correct. And you don't have to share with everyone.
Right.
Right. And I think there's a beauty in it, but there's a place in it and a time. And you get to choose who you share your story with and your parts of you with.
Yeah. So maybe we could, I don't know, I'm going to just throw this out there. Can we think about some times maybe we were vulnerable that it really paid off? That there was a time when you showed your true self and you were so glad that you did, and maybe what that looked like for you. I'm kind of throwing a curveball. We didn't prep this, but.
Well, and I'm going to bring it back to the pod. That's the first thing that I think of is, Katrina and I were fast friends, like really right off the bat. And I think we started talking, we're very similar, but we're also very different.
Yeah.
But we started being vulnerable with each other pretty early on and just having these conversations. And actually, that's how the idea of this podcast with us working together on this came to be. Yeah. Is because of those conversations, right? Like, this was a passion project I wanted to do for years. I think you shared similar interests. And, I was just like, I literally will never forget. We went out to dinner, I think, to celebrate your birthday.
Yeah.
And we're sitting at a restaurant bar, had some cocktails, whatever. And just the conversations we had, I was like, will you do a podcast with me? Or would I forgot exactly, but it was just like, I would listen to us. Like, I think we were vulnerable on a level that just we're having a conversation, but we get deep.
We got deep that night. I remember it very keenly because we were talking about, more existential stuff. We were talking about kind of like self-actualization and, if you get me drunk, I might do the same. So invitation is open to anyone who wants to buy me a bottle or glass of Prosecco. But no, I do think that one resonates with me deeply too, because it was this moment of like, I could ask, but maybe I won't ask. And you asked. And I also am one of the people who I'm like, if I'm invited, like if I'm interested, like I'm coming.
And I need someone to push me. So it was just like, okay, we're doing this thing.
But that took a high degree of vulnerability. But I think to that point, like we felt safe. You felt safe in that moment. And like it has created a great creative space for us and hopefully has benefited people who are listening. And that's ultimately, I think, why we're doing this, is to give people that place where they can feel safe. Right. So I think about the topics that we do every week. We come in, I think, with a unspoken, and now it's going to be spoken actually, commitment to vulnerability, is that there are certain parts of our lives that we aren't going to share, but we have maybe discussed that, or we know that intrinsically about each other or ourselves. And but the rest of it is really meant to be vulnerable. So I actually think about the messages we get through this podcast too, of people being like, I felt the same way, or that really hit home with me, or, hey, I really needed to hear this. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and this is exactly what I needed to hear.
And Ashley is my hero.
And exactly, I think that was explicitly what it said in all bold, capital, underlined, 4 exclamation points. But no, truly. And I think that isn't that what we're trying to do, is let people know they're not alone. And when we say they're not alone, I don't mean the physical sense. You know, we can all hang out with each other and have a very surface level conversation about the weather or about your favorite color, or, you know, but not feeling alone is about really connecting on emotional levels and kind of looking over at people as we're kind of, you know, traversing the waves of life and going, oh, this shit's hard too. Or I lost my oar and I don't know how to get out of this mess.
Well, and that's what it's all about, right? There's these benefits that we see from being vulnerable, right? So let's kind of get into a few of those. So,
sure.
You know, it helps reduce stress and anxiety and shame. Right?
Shame's a big one.
Oh, a big one. Being able to relate to someone on a certain topic. And it, you know what? It might not even be shame that you recognize in the instance too, right? You could be like, oh, I don't really want to talk about that. But there's something that makes you not.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of where that cue comes in. And again, you don't have to share everything with everyone. And this isn't even like a thing being like, oh, share everything. But it's more just, there's almost a freedom. Like when I get together with my best girlfriends, or even after we do every podcast and I talk with Katrina, I feel lighter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just feel myself and I feel grounded and I feel this mantra that I'm trying to pull forward for this second third of my life is this piece of being confident with who I am and relating to others in a way that we bond. And for me, that is so powerful. And I love that feeling, you know, and be with people. Remember, we were taught in the seasons for reasons, friends for reasons and seasons. We talked about the benefits of friendship, right? And that plays into this, reducing your anxiety and your shame by being vulnerable and bonding.
And I love that too, because I also feel lighter, you know, at having these conversations. And I want to just kick on that word shame a bit. So like, you feel shame when you do something that then you feel bad about, right? So that's shame. You know, I do something, or I have a feeling, or I think a thought, and then I shouldn't have that, or I'm guilty about it. And when you have someone who can look at you in your eyeballs and say, I feel the same way, or I get why you feel that way, and then they continue to choose to love you anyways. That is friendship. That is a beautiful place to arrive with people where they go, hey, you got a lot of craziness about you, but I love you anyways. And none of us are perfect. And anybody who thinks that they are, or anyone who thinks that someone is, the chances are they're just holding up one of those masks, or they're just not letting you see those unpolished parts of their lives. And I'm going to tell you what, if you keep looking long enough, you're going to see it. You'll see that little glimmer of, hey, everybody's got their own stuff going on. And so the more we can reduce our shame and turn it into this radical self-acceptance, I think the better off we'll be in terms of just our overall mental health.
Totally. And I think I see this sometimes with influencers.
Yeah.
Those that start to be vulnerable are praised.
100%.
They really are, right? Because you're using your platform to open up to people
and relate
and also show people they're not alone, like you were saying. And I think there's so much strength in that and positivity. And, you know, it's something that some people aren't as courageous to do. But when it happens, when it clicks, when people start responding to that, it's just like, we're humans. This is great.
So I'll share a funny one that I relate to for some levity and such a
do tell.
Yeah. I love the woman who does all of the fast food orders that are customized and like tastes them and then rates them on a scale of 10. And she's so adorable.
I don't know if I know her.
I don't remember her handle, but she shows up all the time.
Wait, is she like younger?
She's younger.
Is she always
She's
eating
black.
in her car? Oh
Yep.
no, I'm thinking of someone else.
But she's eating, in her car too. But like, number one, I don't buy fast food often, so like I get to live vicariously through her and being like, oh wow, that looks delicious, or like, oh, I had no idea they had that on the Taco Bell menu.
But now I'm going there.
But like, then she's like, 2 out of 10, would not recommend. And then she's like 10 out of 10. And like, that to me is funny and interesting. Now, what I won't be drawn to are people like unboxing beauty products, because I'm just like, oh, wow, look at all this waste of money. Like, there's no amount of beauty products that's going to save me at this point. Like, let's be honest. But no, I'm kidding. But my point is that to me is like this, fun. I also adore people who are just talking about the really hard parts of their lives. Like we all know the We Do Not Care Club lady out there. Like there's just people who are giving you real life, or they're trying to poke fun at it, or just trying to have a good time. Like that's the real stuff, the highly curated, the matching outfits, the hair perfectly tousled, and like the 0% body fat. I can't relate to. Because, like, none of that is me. 0. Like, -10.
Well, and there's not an issue with that. And I think,
Yeah.
but saying what you're saying and talking about these influencers, right? Finding the levity.
Yes, the fun.
The fun in day-to-day, too, is just so important, right? In, like, even in sensitive topics, right? Or just, like, getting to where we want to be a little vulnerable with people and maybe poking fun of ourselves a bit too, and being silly, but just being there for others, I think is paramount, is really important.
I agree. And I think at the end of the day, when we think about how this can help continue to boost our mental health and resilience, it's like this really helps us accept ourselves.
Yes.
I think about who we have the biggest relationship every single day that we talk to the most. It's ourselves. Our brains are constantly talking to us. I am on a journey to becoming my own best friend. And part of being vulnerable is practicing this self-acceptance of saying like, hey, this ain't pretty, but this is how I feel. Or, hey, I really have a dream to fill in the blank. I have a dream to da-da-da-da. I can't tell you how many dreams I have. I'm a huge daydreamer, like #Pisces life. I mean, it's for real.
I just did the hashtag
sign. But like, like even you and I, like I'll send cosmic messages. You'll send them back to me. And like, it's okay to dream big.
It
is. And at one stage in my life, I'm like, this is embarrassing to say. Like back in the day, I was like, I want to be Oprah's dog walker. Because I was like, Harpo Studios is in Chicago, and I could just like sneak in and walk her dogs, and then before you know it, she's gonna love me, and then we're gonna be best friends, and I'll be the new Gail. But no, I mean that was an old dream.
Though that's a good dream to have.
But like did I ever tell people? No, not really. But now with my dreams, number one, they're more attainable. I hope some of them are very lofty, but like. You have to be in a psychologically safe space with a person that you've built trust with to be able to tell those dreams and not feel the judgment. Or like, you and I even have lofty goals, and it's like, well, so dream big,
It's not a problem.
Right. But I do think a lot of this just, again, we learn to accept ourselves. And then once we accept ourselves, then we can become like the best version of ourselves. And maybe we hit those goals, maybe we don't. But at least we were honest with ourselves and the people around us and the universe of what we're trying to do with this one life that we have.
Absolutely. And I think when you start to have less goals,
that's a problem.
Detrimental.
Yeah. Keep growing.
And
at share
least
it.
Keep them in your sights, right?
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
And then, also just in general, it's like asking this another element we talk about a lot on the podcast. So we may sound like a broken record, but it also, by being vulnerable, is a big, big, big part of asking for what you need. So there's like this huge goal setting, and then there's just like the day-to-day. Like, hey, I'm going to be vulnerable, and I'm going to be like, I cannot let this dog out again. Or, hey, I'm going to be vulnerable and being like, can you please pick up the kids? Because I just can't. I'm feeling like I need a minute. versus, oh, I got to overcome. I got to be that. I got to be the parent that does this. I got to do this, or I feel bad, or I have this guilt, or I have this shame. You have to ask for what you need, and you need to practice that self-trust of saying, I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to honor you. You still are going to have to do a lot of things, but you have to at least say what you need. I don't know.
Speak it
out into the universe.
I agree.
At the end of the day, I think we need to continue to believe in our value.
Yes.
And what we bring to the world. All of the unpolished, rusty, ugly parts.
Imperfect selves.
Our imperfect selves, as we say on the B&B. But truly, Ashley, I think where we continue to strive and then ultimately arrive in life is the more aligned we are to what I would say are our authentic power, the more we can practice vulnerability and have that courage to be ourselves, the more bountiful life will become.
Absolutely. And it empowers you to chase those goals we mentioned, right? You kind of have this self-assurance.
Yeah.
Or like you're talking about this self-acceptance then to trust yourself. So not only is this building trust with others, but yourself, right?
Big time.
To put yourself in a different, I don't want to say category, realm, I don't know, something out there of I like who I am.
Yes.
I think that's kind of the core of this too, is, getting over that. We talk about shame, or we talk about hesitancy, or we talk about all of those emotions wrapped in one is I trust myself. I like myself. I want to share myself with others. And if it's not reciprocated, that's okay too. Cause you found out in this journey, that person, you can't talk to them in the way you could talk to others.
Right.
But we talk about everyone's a chapter in your book. There's different levels of friendship, and that's a good thing.
Right.
We need all those parts to complete us. And you just ride with your ride or dies.
I love it. And so cheers to being vulnerable.
Cheers.
We hope that this gave you some ideas on how vulnerability can be the doorway into a healthier mental health, but also just healthier relationships, and maybe taking them a step deeper, getting us all out of that surface level, not reality. It's like the dystopian society of that's not real life. The more we can relate to each other on deep topics, the healthier we're going to feel and the more accepted we're going to feel. And so cheers to that, friends.
Agree. And remember,
after every breakdown,
don't forget the bubbles. And if you're liking what we're providing, please rate, review, subscribe, follow us on Instagram. And we just love that you're along with us for our podcast weekly journey. Take care, everyone.